You know what's wild? Politicians will stand in front of cameras and tell you their city is safe, that crime is down, that things are getting better. And then you look at the U-Haul data and realize families are fleeing in record numbers. School enrollment is collapsing, businesses are closing, and the people who can afford to leave are getting out as fast as possible. There's this weird disconnect between what officials say and what people with moving trucks are doing. And the moving trucks don't lie. When families pack up and leave cities they've lived in for generations, something is seriously wrong. So today we're going through 14 cities where crime got so bad that families are mass exiting. Not slowly declining, mass exiting. We're talking about places where school enrollment dropped 20, 30, sometimes 40%. Where entire neighborhoods are emptying out. Where businesses are boarding up and leaving. This isn't about politics. This isn't about blame. This is about observable reality. These cities had crime surges so severe that they triggered demographic collapse. And that collapse is reshaping American cities in ways nobody wants to talk about. Some of these cities might recover. Some won't. But right now, today, families are voting with their feet. And they're voting to leave. Let's get into it. Here's what happened and why it matters. From roughly 2020 to 2023, many American cities experienced crime surges. Not all cities, but a lot of them. Murders spiked, carjackings became common, retail theft spiraled out of control, and the public perception of safety collapsed. The reasons are complicated. COVID disrupted everything. Social unrest, police departments that were already understaffed got worse. Prosecutors in some cities adopted policies that prioritized avoiding incarceration over deterrence. Bail reform in some places meant violent offenders were back on the street within hours. And the cumulative effect was that a lot of cities became demonstrably less safe. Now, crime statistics are messy. Reporting varies. Different cities measure things differently. And there's always debate about what the numbers actually mean. But here's what's not debatable. Families left in massive numbers. And they specifically cited safety as the reason. When school enrollment drops 15 or 20% in a few years, that's not a normal demographic shift. That's families fleeing. When entire neighborhoods see population declines of 30 or 40%, that's not people moving across town. That's people leaving the city entirely. The cities on this list all experienced some version of this. Crime spiked, whether measured by official statistics or by the perception of residents. Families with options left. Businesses closed or relocated, and the cities entered a downward spiral where declining population led to declining tax revenue, led to worse services, led to more people leaving. This is urban policy failure at scale, and the cities that couldn't or wouldn't address the crime problem are paying the price now in lost population, lost businesses, and lost futures. So let's go through 14 cities where this played out most dramatically. Number 14, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, starting with a city that's big enough to absorb losses, but is definitely experiencing an exodus. Philadelphia's murder rate spiked dramatically from 2020 to 2022. Over 500 murders in 2021 and 2022. Carjackings became epidemic. Retail theft got so bad that stores in Center City started locking up basic goods or just closing. Families started leaving, particularly from neighborhoods that used to be improving. School enrollment in Philadelphia public schools dropped by tens of thousands of students. Not because the birth rate collapsed overnight, but because families moved to the suburbs or out of state. Philadelphia has good food, history, and neighborhoods with real character. But when you're afraid to walk to the corner store or your car gets stolen from your driveway, the cheesesteaks stop mattering. Philadelphia thought being a big city would insulate it from decline. It doesn't. Families don't care about city size. They care about safety. Number 13, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minneapolis is interesting because it was considered a success story before everything fell apart. The George Floyd incident and the subsequent unrest fundamentally changed the city. The police department lost hundreds of officers. Response times increased dramatically. Crime spiked. Carjackings went from rare to routine. And families, particularly in neighborhoods that relied on police presence, started leaving. School enrollment in Minneapolis public schools declined significantly. Businesses downtown struggled because people stopped coming downtown, and the political dysfunction around public safety meant nothing got fixed. Minneapolis used to be a model Midwest city, progressive, prosperous, functional. Now it's a cautionary tale about what happens when public safety collapses and nobody can agree on how to fix it. Minneapolis is where good intentions met reality and reality won. Number 12. Portland, Oregon. Portland became a symbol of urban dysfunction during the pandemic era. The protests, the riots, the occupation of downtown areas, the police department that was already understaffed getting worse, the rising homelessness, and open drug use. All of it combined to make Portland feel like it was falling apart. Crime increased. Perception of safety plummeted. Families with kids started moving to the suburbs or leaving Oregon entirely. Downtown Portland became something of a ghost town as businesses closed or relocated. Portland's identity as a quirky, progressive, livable city took a massive hit. And the people leaving weren't just conservatives upset about politics. Plenty of progressive families left because they didn't feel safe or didn't want their kids growing up in a city that seemed unable to govern itself. Portland is where Keep Portland Weird turned into Get Me Out of Portland. Number 11. Chicago, Illinois. Chicago's crime problem is legendary, but it got significantly worse in recent years. Certain neighborhoods in Chicago have always had high crime, but the spillover into previously safer areas increased dramatically. Carjackings citywide, expressway shootings, retail carters in nice neighborhoods seeing smash and grab robberies. Families left Chicago in significant numbers, particularly families with school-age kids. The suburbs of Chicago grew while the city lost population. School enrollment declined, and businesses struggled as foot traffic decreased and theft increased. Chicago is a world-class city with incredible architecture, food, and culture. But when you're dodging carjackers on Michigan Avenue, the Bean and deep dish pizza don't compensate. Chicago is too big to die but small enough to hollow out. And that's what's happening. Number 10. New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans has always had crime issues, but post-Katrina progress reversed dramatically in recent years. The murder rate in New Orleans is genuinely shocking. Among the highest in the nation, carjackings are common. The police department is severely understaffed and struggling to recruit, and the functional parts of the city feel like they're shrinking. Families who stayed after Katrina and helped rebuild are now leaving. School enrollment is down. Businesses in previously revitalizing neighborhoods are closing, and the city feels like it's regressing to pre-Katrina dysfunction. New Orleans has culture and music and food that's irreplaceable. But culture can't protect you from violent crime, and families are realizing that. New Orleans is where resilience met reality and finally gave up. Number 9. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis has been struggling for decades, but the recent crime surge accelerated the decline. Memphis consistently ranks among the most dangerous cities in America. The murder rate is high, property crime is endemic, and the perception is that the city is ungovernable. Families are leaving Memphis in significant numbers. School enrollment is collapsing, businesses are closing, and the remaining residents, particularly those without resources to leave, are stuck in a city that feels increasingly desperate. Memphis has incredible cultural history. Blues. Soul. BBQ. But history doesn't keep you safe, and families with options are choosing cities where they're less likely to be victims of crime. Memphis is where the Delta meets desperation. Number 8. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee is often overlooked, but it's experiencing a serious exodus. Milwaukee's crime rate spiked significantly. The city has struggled with gun violence concentrated in certain neighborhoods but spreading. Reckless driving became a major problem, and the police department has staffing shortages. Families left Milwaukee for surrounding suburbs or left Wisconsin entirely. School enrollment declined, and the city's tax base eroded as middle-class families moved out. Milwaukee is a Great Lakes city with good bones. But bones don't matter if families don't feel safe sending their kids to school or walking their neighborhoods at night. Milwaukee is where Midwestern stability became Midwestern decline. Number 7. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit is complicated because it's been declining for so long, but the recent crime surge halted any recovery momentum. Parts of Detroit were gentrifying, downtown was improving, and then crime spiked again. Carjackings, shootings, the perception that the city was backsliding, and families who might have considered moving to Detroit or staying in Detroit left instead. Detroit's population continues to decline. School enrollment is a fraction of what it once was, and the areas of the city that aren't gentrified feel increasingly abandoned. Detroit is the ultimate American urban decline story, and just when you thought it might turn around, crime made sure it didn't. Detroit is where comeback stories go to die again. Number 6. San Francisco, California. San Francisco's decline is shocking because of how expensive and prestigious it used to be. San Francisco's crime problem is mostly property crime, theft, car break-ins, and open-air drug markets. But the cumulative effect is a city that feels lawless. Retail stores closed because theft made business impossible. Downtown emptied out, and families left for safer and saner places. School enrollment in San Francisco public schools dropped dramatically. The city's population declined for the first time in decades, and businesses that had been there for generations closed because they couldn't operate in the chaos. San Francisco used to be the crown jewel of California. Now it's a case study in how progressive policies without accountability create urban dysfunction. San Francisco is where the tech industry meets street-level anarchy. Number 5. Seattle, Washington. Seattle followed a similar trajectory to San Francisco. Property crime, disorder, political dysfunction. Seattle's downtown became increasingly hostile to businesses and residents. Theft, vandalism, open drug use, and a general sense that the city government wasn't interested in enforcing basic laws. Families left for suburbs or left Washington state entirely. School enrollment declined. Businesses closed, and the city's reputation shifted from livable tech hub to cautionary tale. Seattle is beautiful, has great coffee, and is surrounded by nature. None of that matters if you can't leave your car parked without it being broken into. Seattle is where rain meets regret. Number 4. Oakland, California. Oakland has always struggled with crime, but the recent surge pushed it over the edge. Oakland's crime rate exploded. Murders, carjackings, sideshow takeovers, retail theft. The city felt like it was spiraling. The police department is understaffed and overwhelmed, and families gave up and left. School enrollment plummeted. Businesses closed en masse. Even the Oakland A's are leaving, which is darkly symbolic. Oakland is the textbook example of a city with potential that can't escape its dysfunction. It's right next to San Francisco and Silicon Valley wealth, but that wealth can't fix the crime and governance problems. Oakland is where proximity to wealth doesn't equal safety. Number 3. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis has one of the highest murder rates in the country, and it's been that way for years. The city's population has been declining for decades, but the crime surge accelerated the exodus. Families left St. Louis for St. Louis County suburbs or left the region entirely. School enrollment collapsed, and entire neighborhoods emptied out. St. Louis has good food, history, and the arch. But you can't build a functional city when families are fleeing violence. The city is hollowing out. St. Louis is where Midwestern grit meets statistical horror. Number 2. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore is arguably the worst case on this list in terms of sustained crime and population loss. Baltimore's murder rate is staggeringly high. The city has lost hundreds of thousands of residents over recent decades. School enrollment is a fraction of what it was. Entire neighborhoods are abandoned, and the families that remain are often those without the resources to leave. Baltimore has good neighborhoods and cultural assets, but the overall trajectory is decline. Families are leaving, businesses are closing, and the city seems unable to stop the downward spiral. Baltimore is where The Wire wasn't exaggeration, it was documentary. At number 1, the most ironic example of crime-driven exodus, we have parts of Washington, D.C. The nation's capital saw significant increases in carjackings, shootings, and general disorder in recent years. Families left D.C. for Virginia and Maryland suburbs in large numbers. School enrollment declined, and even the metro system became less safe. The irony is that the federal government is headquartered in D.C., and it couldn't keep its own city safe. Families who work for the federal government live in the suburbs because they don't trust D.C. Public safety. D.C. used to be gentrifying, parts are regressing, and families are choosing suburban safety over urban amenities. Washington, D.C. is where the people who make national policy can't fix local crime. So what does all this actually mean? First, crime has real consequences. When families don't feel safe, they leave. They don't care about cultural amenities or city loyalty or progressive politics. They care about their kids being safe. And when cities fail to provide that, they lose their tax base. Second, population decline creates a death spiral. Fewer residents means less tax revenue, means worse services, means more people leave. The cities on this list are experiencing this in real time. Third, the exodus is selective. The people leaving tend to be middle-class families with kids. The people staying tend to be those without resources to leave. This hollows out the middle class and leaves cities with a bifurcated population of very wealthy and very poor. Fourth, some cities can recover if they address the problem, but that requires political will, functional policing, and accountability for criminals. Cities that can't or won't do this will continue declining. And fifth, this reshapes America. Families fleeing urban crime move to suburbs or red states. They take their politics with them. The cities they leave become less politically diverse and more dysfunctional. So there you have it. 14 cities where crime got so bad that families are mass exiting. This isn't inevitable. This isn't every city, but it's these cities. And the families leaving are making rational decisions. Based on lived experience, some of these cities will recover. Maybe, if they elect leaders willing to prioritize public safety. If police departments can be rebuilt. If prosecutors enforce laws. If the political culture shifts to acknowledge that safety is a prerequisite for everything else. But some of these cities won't recover. They'll keep declining until only the wealthy and fortified neighborhoods in them, poor without options, remain. And at that point, calling them cities is questionable. The families leaving aren't villains. They're not abandoning cities out of cruelty. They're protecting their kids. And cities that can't understand that will keep losing people. So here's my question for you. If you lived in one of these cities, would you stay? Would you tough it out and hope for improvement? Or would you join the exodus? Drop a comment. Let me know, because this is one of the most consequential urban shifts happening in America right now. And if you found this depressing but necessary, maybe subscribe. We cover housing markets, cities, and the uncomfortable truths most people ignore. Someone has to document the chaos. Might as well be me.